It's seeing everything that my family went through. They gave up everything. They gave up all their belongings and they only had the clothes on their back and their backpack, and they hopped on a boat to travel all the way to another country. If they could do that, then I can do anything.
All right. Welcome to another episode of the How Do You Do That podcast. I'm your host, Pham. Today, I have the joy of introducing you to Nguyen. I've always been inspired by Vu's ability to take risks and to try new things. I hope this conversation with Vu will also encourage you to embrace failures, bet on yourself, and to take leaps of faith. Vu, thanks so much for joining me tonight. Excited to have you share your story with people.
Thanks for having me.
So you're one of the biggest hustlers I know. I know that whenever I think of people who absorb knowledge and then apply it and who have a heavy bias for action, I always think of you. I think a lot of folks get trapped in this, try to absorb a bunch of knowledge and they really take in a lot, but they don't necessarily apply it. And so it almost feels a bit wasted. Whereas I feel like you're on the other side of the spectrum where you take in knowledge and then you're looking for ways to apply it almost immediately.
Yeah, I'm surrounded by a lot of good influences in my life, my parents, where they're constantly teaching me to not just be a dreamer. Lots of people out there, they have big vision, big goals, big dreams, but then it never goes to fruition. It just stays that way. And so actually acting upon those dreams, striving towards it, because we live in a country that gives us the freedom to be able to go out there and do exactly what we want versus just sitting there and waiting for it. And so going out there and actually trying to achieve your dreams and working towards it rather than sitting and waiting for the next, lottery, I just found that is so much more efficient and meaningful in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get that same sense when I think about my grandpa went to the Vietnam War and fought with the US, and then he went to prison for 8 years. And now my parents moved to the US and they work at a laundromat business and really sacrificed a lot to give us the opportunity to come to the US to pursue things that we're passionate about.
Yeah, it's really tough, and we have to put it into perspective that we are very fortunate to have this situation here that's presented by our parents, the generation that sacrificed everything to get here. My parents came here not knowing English at all, and so they came here seeking opportunity, seeking a better life for their children. And so this is my way of repaying them back by trying to be successful and striving so that one day I could provide for them the same way they provide for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know you've been pretty aggressive on a lot of different things that you work on, and you really push yourself and challenge yourself to grow. I know you work in cybersecurity right now, so I'd love to hear maybe how you got into that. Did you study it in college, or what made you sort of pursue that path?
It started with my dad. My dad is a software engineer, previously like a computer engineer. And so I've always been tinkering around with technology ever since I was young. And so that seeded my interest and passion in technology and computers. And so I went to OU to go to study as a computer and electrical engineer, and then eventually moved into systems engineering and got into sysadmin IT work. Did that for about 7-8 years until I decided that I wanted to pivot to another extremely lucrative pathway in cybersecurity, which is ever growing today. You hear about all these different headlines of ransomware, hacking, social engineering, phishing emails. There's so many things occurring out there because it's so much easier to be a bad guy versus a good guy now. Mm-hmm. And so every single company is now hiring to try to boost their cybersecurity personnel to be able to protect their assets, because it only takes one bad incident to bring a company down. You never want to be the next headline, and then now suddenly your stocks are going to tumble 50%. And so they do everything they can to be able to prevent a cybersecurity attack versus trying to deal with it after the fact.
Right.
Yeah. And so cybersecurity has always been really, a growing field and an interest of mine, because you have to think differently. And it was really, really cool that, I could utilize my knowledge in engineering with designing to be able to now think of unique ways that an attacker would compromise an asset or a host. They utilize native programs or even native applications within the platform that was supposed to be used for good, and now they turn around and used it for bad. So it's really interesting to be able to work with new different ways of thinking that you normally wouldn't traditionally do. So it's a great field to be in, and something that I don't think I'll ever do the same thing every month. It's always ever changing.
Yeah. So you said you started with system engineering, right? Did that fully equip you for your work in cybersecurity, or how
Yeah,
did you get prepared for that?
all the different fields of engineering helped me significantly. Computer engineering taught me all the different languages to code. Software engineering helped me learn the different methodologies of life cycle and software management. Systems engineering helped me discover all the the frameworks on how to build an overall system, how the different applications interact with each other. And so rather than just working within that small silo, systems engineering let me step back and see the whole ecosystem and how they interact with each other, almost like an architect. But we're taking those designs and now doing the how rather than just the what.
Got it.
And after that, being able to pivot into cybersecurity, which is completely different, but it's been a great experience to be able to be almost like an ethical hacker. You get to think of different things that traditional ways people just won't even think about. Like let's say when you are going into a website and then you're putting in your password, your username and password, but a lot of people don't realize that all that is in the background a database that's reading that field and then seeing and matching that field with something in the database, but they don't realize that it's always reading that field. So what if you put in some kind of formula into that field? And so now the database will read that, and instead of reading it, now it will see that, oh, it's actually telling me a command. And so now instead of matching that name into the database, it's going to do that command, which is, oh, retrieve admin privileges. And so there's many different ways of being able to do things that people don't even realize. And now we have to think about all those different ways.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you do this specifically for your company, or do you do this for lots of different clients?
Well, I specifically work for TriNet, which is an HR company, but really we're a software company at the end, and we design HR services. We have to constantly think about how we're going to build our platform, which is just an HR platform, providing benefits, retirement, product offerings, many different things that you see in an HR ecosystem.
Got it. Got it. So it sounds like cybersecurity has given you, these opportunities to be creative, to be challenged. Do you really enjoy doing that kind of work? What are the sort of pros and cons of the field that you're in?
With cybersecurity, I found that one of the biggest pros is you're never going to be doing the same thing. You'll always be doing something different, and there's always a need. And so, if you really want to strive and go out there and learn more things, and especially have an exciting field, then cybersecurity is it. One of the cons that I felt that a lot of people don't see is it can be stressful, especially when there is like an incident or a data breach. Now it's all hands on deck, and everyone is working around the clock to try to figure out what happened, what got compromised, what is the attack surface of things that got compromised through the network, and then figuring out ways to fix it, to back it up. You basically have a great time whenever everything is good, but then the times that are bad is really bad.
I'm so curious. So like if you were to like go in randomly to a random company and just evaluate how strong their cybersecurity is, like what would you look for? What would be some sort of red flags for you?
So they call this security posturing, where they evaluate a company based on many different variables, and there's several different ways that they would measure it. They measure the external posture and then the internal posture. External is when they want to see, can they evaluate all the different mechanisms and security controls that a company has to be able to block outside attacks, outside threats. Internal is when there are vulnerabilities that are on the inside, that what if some kind of inside threat, like let's say a disgruntled employee decided, hey, I'm going to cause mass havoc within the company because they're about to fire me. And so there's many different ways of being able to measure a company's security posture. There's quite a lot to dive into today, and you can go down quite a rabbit hole with it.
Bet.
But overall, you look at either external or interior variables.
Got it. So your team is the one that's sending out those fake phishing emails, right? And trying to catch employees messing up.
Yeah, we do phishing campaigns where we intentionally send out emails to employees and hope that they learn from all the different trainings that we send them. And unfortunately, most of them are getting it, but there are some that are just not really getting it. And they click on every single link that they see. It's, oh, you get free $20 on Amazon, so click here. Or, your mail is being tracked right now, and this is the tracking number, and so click here to be able to see the status of your package. There's many different things that attackers are doing, and they are able to mimic a very, very realistic looking email. And it's crazy that they're able to do all these things. And an honest person would fall for these very, very easy. And that's why I say it's really easy to be a bad guy nowadays. Like it's just so bad. But that's why cybersecurity is growing, because you have to put all these defense mechanisms in to be able to protect the employee. Because at the end of the day, humans are the weakest link within this ecosystem. And so now we're trying to protect humans from themselves.
Yeah, that's so tough, because like it's already one challenge to make sure your software and your like technology is well protected, and then now you're dealing with like human psychology as well. Human flaws.
Yeah, and it's really funny that we commonly see the people who fail the most are those who sometimes have the most sensitive information, like let's say C-levels who have a lot of admin privileges and are very set in their ways, and they want to run things a certain way and have almighty power to all the shares. And they're the ones who are failing all of these tests. So what do? They have access to the sensitive information, but they want that access to stay, but they're not learning how to protect it. So what do you do here? But hey, they're C-level, so got to give them what they want, right?
Yeah, geez, what a tough balance. And I'll admit that I've definitely clicked on some of those phishing links, and our company will send me through like a 20-minute lesson. And after one or two of those, I like really scrutinize my emails to make sure that, hey, is this safe or is it not safe?
Which is good. Yeah. I mean, that's the point of it. Even I've fallen for our own. And it's really crazy because, we don't let the same people do those phishing campaigns to keep everyone on their toes. So it's actually a team that cycles through to try to keep them different. And then the best times to send out these phishing campaigns is actually during holidays. People fall for it during the holidays for some reason, because they're always waiting for their packages, or they're more attentive to seeing like, oh, there's free gifts and free things here and there.
That's so fascinating. So I guess from a personal perspective, what are like one or two things that everyday people can do to protect themselves on the internet?
So the biggest thing that I think a lot of people should really be doing is have a password manager. That's the easiest thing to do. On average, most people have about 5 to 6 passwords that they reuse. They're all different, but they reuse them across all their platforms, whether it's their banking, whether it's their shopping websites, anything that they log into on the internet. They reuse these 5 to 6 passwords. And what people don't realize is that the hacking into a bank is extremely difficult. But then hacking to this website where you just bought new shoes, and that company is just a small startup, so they don't have all the security controls necessary to block attacks, an attack vector will compromise that small company, take those same credentials, and then now try to access all of the different other sites. And knowing that most people are reusing their passwords. So it's really crazy to know that while your password may be not protected within the banking facility, it was compromised elsewhere. And so now you really should be utilizing some kind of password manager to save your passwords and remember it. A password manager only asks you to remember your master password. And your master password should be some long passphrase. It doesn't have to be as complicated as other people think. Most people think, oh, I have to put symbols and numbers and all these crazy things. No, you really just need a long password that incorporates spaces. And so my password could be, I like to eat peanut butter jelly sandwiches. That's literally it. That's my password, but no one's ever going to crack that password because it's extremely long and has spaces in it. So you ask the password manager to store all your passwords and then let it auto generate a random password for every single website that you have. I literally don't know almost 90% of my passwords because I genuinely don't know them. It's just a combination of numbers, symbols, and letters. And all I have to remember is my master password, which is a really, really long password. And after that, the password manager will save all those other passwords for me. And it's really safe. It's encrypted and it's stored within a cloud platform. And there's many ways that people think that, oh, they can compromise that, but they really can't. It's a lot easier to try to compromise all of those smaller websites. So today, if you can use like a password manager, like let's say LastPass, OnePass, KeyPass, I think that is one of the biggest things that you can make a change in your life, because now you can have a different password for every single website and not care. Because if that password gets compromised, then they can't use those credentials to log into another website. The second thing that I would tell everyone to do, and it goes hand in hand, is using MFA, which is multi-factor authentication. So things like when you log into your banking financial institution, it asks you to input a 6-digit PIN into from your phone, or Google Authenticator, or Microsoft Authenticator, or one of the many different things, YubiKeys. It now provides an out-of-band way of authenticating that who you are, who you say you are. You prove that you know the information, which is the password, but now you have to prove that you are who you say you are with something external, which is now that 6-digit key. So an attacker is less likely to have both at the same time. Combining a password manager and using MFA, you should be able to defend yourself easily against the majority of attacks out there.
Great tips, Vu. I need to do this. I'm always like, whatever. But now I also, with the password manager thing, I keep thinking about like the number of times I can't remember like which of my 8 passwords this is. And I keep cycling through them until I get it. But I think just having one password manager would both be safer and it'd be probably more efficient for me to keep logging into my accounts more quickly.
Yeah, I did it purely for convenience back then, before I even worked for cybersecurity. I mean, I now have to remember one password and nothing else. Like I don't even have to worry. And I have it both on my phone for mobile and I have it on my desktop. So now I don't have to worry about remembering those 6 passwords or going in and doing a forget password all the time. It just does it for me, which becomes extremely convenient. A really useful website that I advise everyone to check out is www.haveibeenpwned.com. If you input your email into that website, it will show you all the different data breaches out there. And if it finds your email within any of those publicly available databases, it will show you, oh, your email was associated with the Chegg hacking or the Dropbox hacking. And so you can see that there's proof right there that your email was compromised already. And that is, the for sure sign that you should change your password on those sites.
Got it. And it was www.haveibeenpwned. How do you spell pwned?
PWNED.
PWNED. I spelled it PONED.
Yeah.
All right, good to know. I'll do that after this call too. Our conversations have always sparked a lot of blog posts, and when I'm running out of ideas for blog posts, I usually just scroll through our messages and I'm like, what did Vu and I recently talk about that might be interesting to other people as well? I'd love to maybe have you share what is the best or most worthwhile investment you've made. It could be an investment of money, time, energy, and other resources. And how did you decide to make that investment?
The biggest investment I ever made was an investment in my wife. When she was previously working as a nail tech, I saw it as a dead-end career for her. I mean, you can't really go up from there. You just become like a senior nail tech, or if you want to become like a manager or own your nail salon, it's just there's no career path opportunities with there. And so I could see that she was a very hardworking person. She didn't go to college, and so she didn't have a college education, but I found that she did something better than most people, and she was extremely hardworking. So I knew right away after I met her that she would be a great owner operator. I was always wanting to be an entrepreneur since I was young. I've always wanted to own several businesses. And after I realized that she had the potential to be an owner operator, I had to figure out what industry we could use to pivot her in because we wanted to utilize her knowledge to be able to find an industry that she could really excel, really show her strength as being hardworking. And so I just luckily, stumbled upon after doing research many different career fields that she could do. But pet grooming is the one that I landed on. But that was the biggest investment that I made. That I pushed her, I nudged her into this career field where we invested in purchasing a pet grooming business, and she became the owner operator, and I handled all of the back end logistics so that now we can utilize her strengths to be able to do something more meaningful and really capitalize on her skill set. And now that has really rocketed and exponentially built out our portfolio.
Yeah. So tell us more about finding this business, why this one, what was your process for that, and maybe how did you go about evaluating pet grooming business versus whatever else you had taken a look at?
Originally, I was looking at just nail salons because she's already a nail tech, and so she would already have the skill set to be able to manage her own nail salon. It's very easy, it's something that's very familiar, very comfortable, and the Vietnamese community seems to be very fond of opening up nail salons. So it's already within our origins and something that we're used to, especially since I have uncles and family members who also own nail salons. So it's something that is very easy for us to pivot into. When I was doing research into nail salons, I found that the biggest factor that was really difficult to control was employees. Like you're always cycling through employees. Most employees don't stay there that long. They only stay there several years. Then they go and work at another nail salon. You have a lot of different turnover. And I really want to find an industry that didn't have as much turnover. And really, I wanted to find something that I didn't have to depend on people. If I can figure out some kind of business that didn't have to depend on people and more on services or products, then I remove that big variable because I want to control all of the different aspects of the business, but I can't control that. And so if I can reduce the amount of effect that variable has on my business, essentially I can have more control within my life.
Uh-huh.
And so whenever I was looking at different ideas, well, what could have, less people and more products and services and offerings? I thought of doing like a booth rental. Julie would manage some kind of, it's not a warehouse, but like a mini strip mall or a large building that has many different booths on the inside, and we would rent it out to various cosmetic designers. So there could be hairdressers, nail technicians. They could be doing threading. They could do anything. They could do lashes. So we'll rent out to these people and not have to worry about managing them because all we're doing is just renting a booth out to them. Mm-hmm. That's all. And Julie could easily just do her own booth as well. She could manage the building while also doing her own thing. And so now she'd be doing both. When I was doing research on that, I found that there was only several different places that were selling their buildings because they were doing so well. So I couldn't get into that. So I made an offer on one and it just didn't turn out. And so, we gave up on that. We were looking for other different product offerings that could fit. And I even stumbled upon laundromats. Mm-hmm. And so I was looking at laundromats and car washes. There was many different things. But one day when I was doing my searches for businesses and different careers, I accidentally didn't filter my searches. So I actually just broadly searched with whatever is in the area. And that's when pet grooming just popped up. And I thought it was really interesting because I saw that, wow, like there was very little inventory, very little low cost to start up, and there's very, very little high profit margin. And so I was really confused, like, why is that? Why is it that this business was doing so well and it didn't even cost that much at all overall? And that was because they were selling a service. They were selling what they could do with their hands. They weren't selling a product. They weren't trying to do anything else. They were just selling their specialty, what they could do with their hands. Through that random stumbling, I dove more into the industry, and I realized Julie doing nails was just cosmetic, and this is now pet grooming is cosmetology for pets. It's the same exact field. So, she loves animals. She loves dogs. Why can't she do this? I brought the idea up to her, and she was extremely hesitant. It's something, unfamiliar, something completely foreign, and very outside the norm for Vietnamese people, even Asian people. Like, no, you rarely hear about Asian people being pet groomers. It's just not a common thing. And people seem to look down on it, thinking that's a very dirty job. It's the help. People who are doing it, they're just providing this dirty service, and they're cutting their dogs. They're all, gross and filthy after running around outside, and their hair is long and their hair is matted, or they have some poop stuck on the behind. So it's not a clean job. It's very manual intensive labor. So why would people want to do it? And it's because of that. That's why they can charge really, really well, because they're selling that service that no one else wants to do. I nudged Julie into that industry, and I asked her, hey, just let's give it a try. Just try it out for a year. And if you don't like it, we will back out. We will just cut our losses and just move on to some industry. And luckily, after we tried it out, it stuck. And, it's been up ever since.
That's phenomenal. So it sounds like you were using some type of search engine database to look at different types of businesses. Is that right?
Yeah. I was using, I believe it's called like Biz Buy Sell. Gotta fact check myself. Yeah. bizbuysell.com.
BIZ?
Yeah. BIZ. So I used that, and there's many different other ways of checking too. I mean, you can even check Facebook, but Biz Buy Sell I found was the most useful, because you can set your parameters, and then it will actually alert you if new businesses are for sale. And so I was just constantly checking, and I was looking for a business to buy for about 3 years.
Wow,
so
really?
It wasn't something new. It just, I finally stumbled upon the pet grooming business, and that's when my search criteria changed completely. After that, my outlook on what I was looking for drastically changed, and we were able to find something immediately.
Wow. Okay. So what was the tipping point for Julie? Was she just sold on, let's try it and then we'll pivot if it doesn't work out, or what ultimately made her say yes to this?
I guess it's mainly that she just believed in me. She believed in my decision making. She knew that I wouldn't have made this decision out of nowhere. I wouldn't have pushed her and nudged her in this direction if I truly didn't believe in her abilities to be successful within this field. She knew that I would be supporting her on the back end 100% of the way. She wasn't going to have to run this whole business on her own. Most groomers are the ones that they're running the whole 100% of the business. They're grooming, they're scheduling, they're ordering supplies, they're talking to clients, they're doing, the whole 360. But she knew that I was standing behind her, backing her up. And so all I wanted to do was just have her groom, just work on her craft, work on the customer experience, and I will handle everything on the back end. So being able to have that lower risk, and having a backup plan where, hey, if I don't like this, we can just sell in a year and start over and do something else. So it was really just like, giving a try.
Yeah. I love that you were able to say, hey, let's just try it, right? Like, let's just dive in, and you have limited downside, but it could be really worthwhile, right? And I think that takes a lot of courage to be able to do something like that. What's the process of buying someone else's business and then turning it and making it your own?
Yeah. Two things that a lot of people need to really examine is, do you want to start your own, or do you want to buy existing? I think that's probably the first topic that we should talk about.
Okay.
When I was stumbled upon this industry, I was debating, well, we could just start our own pet grooming business. We can, learn the craft, send her to some classes and get certified, slowly build up our clientele, low risk. And if it doesn't work out, at least we didn't make a big investment. Starting off on your own, it's really, really low investment, because you don't have to worry, a lot to tell the viewers is this is mobile pet grooming, not just like a salon. And so we don't have the huge investment into like a building or a lease or utilities. We're actually driving out to people's houses and doing dog grooming right outside their door. So starting off, a lot of people don't really factor in all of the different variables that may come into play. Starting up on your own is really, really low. When I was doing the math, on the low end, you could be spending about like 30,000 roughly. And then on a high end, you could be spending like 65,000, which really isn't that much for like a brand new business. And so, let's be conservative and say like high end. 65,000 for startup costs is really not that much. You can go to a bank and get that financed pretty easily. And if it doesn't work out, you can just back out. Like, that's not a huge investment versus when we were looking at businesses to purchase an existing, our ranges were closer to about 200,000 up to like 350. So it's a pretty steep investment right there, trying to figure out exactly, do you want to start on your own or buy existing?
So what made you lean towards the buying rather than starting your own?
It's basically potential. When I did the math, I did research on how much money new pet groomers were making consistently after the first year, the second year, or the third year. And so roughly I found that most pet groomers, when they're starting off and building their clientele, they made about 65,000 the first year. And then each year they made about a 17 to 20% increase each year. So 65,000 becomes 80,000 the second year, and then 95,000 third year. When I did the math, if you take away the original cost of 65,000, which is the conservative high end, then after 3 years, you would have profited about 175,000. If I bought existing and I bought that business for about 230,000, the business will have already been established. I'm not starting new. I don't have to find new clientele at all. And so I'm just stepping in and then ensuring that I keep all the business that we already have and grow it even more. And so when I was looking at businesses that were already established, they were usually making about 100 to 120,000 already. And so if you follow the same model, 17 to 20% increase, the first year you make about 120,000, second year 145,000, third year you make 170,000. And so if you add that all up after 3 years and subtract the original investment of 230, it's 202,000. So I'm comparing 202,000 in profit after 3 years versus starting up on my own, which is 175,000 after 3 years. But the difference is after the third year, starting up my own business, I'm still only making about 95,000 a year versus after the third year, I'm making 170,000. So
Wow.
I'm well ahead and making more money. But the problem is it caps out around there. It doesn't consistently keep going up after 170. That's about the top end right there with one van, about 170 to 180,000. But I've already reached my max instantly within the third year right there and squeezing out as much potential as I can from the business after 3 years versus the other one, I still have many years to go be able to get to the max. But the biggest thing is the risk. What if I can't sustain the business? That's a really big investment. 230,000 is basically a mortgage. So you can't, not really a mortgage in Austin. Austin's really expensive. So a mortgage in, let's say, Oklahoma City.
Right.
So it's a huge gamble that a lot of people don't realize. To make that kind of investment, to buy something existing, well, why were they selling in the first place? Was it because they weren't doing well? So why were they selling? There's many different variables that you need to consider, but I trusted my ability to be able to take something existing and make it better. And I utilized my background in engineering, which is essentially taking an idea, taking a concept and making it better. I'm not really good at making something new out of nothing. That's why I didn't become like a programmer or an architect. I can't make something new out of nothing. But I'm really good at, if you give me some kind of idea, some kind of project, some kind of concept, I can take that and make it even better. And that's exactly what I did. I utilized all my knowledge in engineering and then applied it to this business. And I believed that, hey, I can take this existing business and make it even better. I'm not going to let it stagnate, over like the years and make only 120,000. I know it has so much more potential. So viewers out there that are listening, I hope they think about all the different things that come into play, because there's a lot of potential with buying an existing. If you really study into the industry and know exactly what variables are there and what things can help you and what things, might be detrimental. You have to understand your audience. You have to understand your different area, the different cities. The cost of mobile grooming in Austin is completely different than in Oklahoma City. So trying to factor in all those different things, I came to the decision that Austin was the best place to be able to start our business and grow.
Yeah. Everywhere you look, somebody has a pet, right? And
Yeah.
you're mobile and you're able to get to them. And you started this during COVID as well, right? Like it was during that time frame.
Yeah, it was, we were extremely lucky. Another business that we were thinking about buying back then was a boba shop. I'm so glad that we did not do that, because the boba shop, they did not do that well over COVID. It was really tough having any kind of physical location. We purchased our mobile pet grooming business right before COVID. When COVID struck, we were terrified. We had this huge debt that we just took on, and we were scared that people would be too afraid to go outside. They won't get their pets groomed anymore. They want to save money and not spend it because they don't, the uncertainty that happened. But we were completely blindsided when business boomed. It was insane to see how many phone calls were coming in, and inadvertently, COVID helped us. People started looking towards mobile services during the COVID pandemic because they didn't want to interact with other people.
Right.
So now they can call our team out right to their doorstep and then groom their dog right outside their door. They don't have to interact with anyone else but us, and that's it. So there was very minimum interaction. All they did was to hand off the dog to us. But outside of that, they didn't have to drive to a salon and then talk to multiple people, interact with others. We didn't realize that our business went from, our calendars were maybe about 60 to 70% filled. Within maybe half a year of COVID, we were not able to take on clients anymore. We were so filled on our calendars that we had to decline clients at that point. It was that crazy. And it was that way for every mobile groomer that we knew. Every mobile groomer was just booked out because it was insane the amount of business that was coming in. So I'm very thankful and grateful for the opportunity that was presented. It was very unfortunate that COVID was the one that, that caused it. But hey, you want to make an opportunity of every situation.
Yeah. One thing that I love about you, Vu, is that you were prepared, right? You had been researching this for 3 years, learning about different industries. You've been studying systems and processes, and you've taken those skills that you've developed and you've been able to trade that in for this opportunity, right? I don't think even if someone else was looking at this, right, if they had come across a dog grooming business, they may have overlooked that opportunity, right? But because you were skilled and you had this knowledge, you could spot that opportunity. And so you were able to capitalize on it. You're humble and you always said I got lucky with what I found and things. But I think a big part of it is you generated your own luck because you were prepared, you were able to grab the opportunity. I think when you're not prepared, you can't tell when there is an opportunity. And so you never feel like you're lucky, right? Because you weren't really prepared for that.
Yeah, you speak too kind of me, John. Just, thanks for those kind words. I am a product of my own failures. I had a lot of failures before I have success. People only see the success, but they don't realize everything that happened in the background. I actually have 2 failed businesses that I started back then.
That's actually one of my questions, which is how was a failure or an apparent failure set you up for a later success? So I think this is a really nice transition into that.
Yeah, so I have 2 other businesses. They're still going right now. And, it's an idea in the back of my mind that, hey, if I ever fail at this pet grooming business, I might revisit that, but I don't think I'll ever revisit it at this point. VV Prints, which does personalized photo books like wedding books, graduation albums, anything of that nature. And then another was Royal Greek Apparel, which is Greek apparel for college students. Both of them failed for different reasons. But they both, the biggest thing that taught me was there was always opportunity within those different failures. So with VV Prints, we found that there was this niche where I could produce a very, very high quality product for very, very cheap. I was able to actually produce the photo books professionally overseas and then have them drop ship it over in the US. A lot of companies are doing this already today anyways. So, I wanted to capitalize on something that people can now get a high quality product and not really have to pay that much at all. This is personalized and is able to get to the masses. You would imagine that a high quality photo album would cost, $100 to $200 or even more with the kind of material that we were using. But we were able to cut that cost down to about $50 to $60 for each book, which was a fraction of the cost compared to all of our other competitors. The reason why that we failed was because we just didn't know how to market it properly. We didn't know how to reach out to our audience, and we spent quite too much on the business itself and not enough on how to sell this product. And so we stumbled upon that. We were able to sell a decent amount of these photo albums, but the customer was never able to relay like, hey, this is a great product. I need to tell other people about it. So we were able to generate some income here and there, but it wasn't that much at all. And so it taught me there's many different aspects within this business that I need to focus on. I can't just focus on providing this amazing product and people will come. I thought as long as you provide something amazing, people will eventually find it. Like just make a really, really good chicken sandwich. People will come there and they will eat it. They will think that it's amazing. But, I'm not Chick-fil-A, so I can't make that happen. And so it taught me that there's many different aspects that you have to have a great product, but you have to know how to market it as well.
Right.
But my other business, Royal Greek Apparel, we did decent, much better than the photo album. We were selling Greek apparel and Greek merchandise to college students. So all of the sororities, the Greek lives, I was even selling to different organizations with it at OU and OSU. And so we did decent. One thing that I failed to realize was college students are very cheap and they really don't want to spend much at all. And so we were already providing, a really, really low cost to them and trying to give them a discount because, hey, they also went to OU, but they wanted even cheaper. And so I didn't realize that most college students, at that stage of their life, they'd rather have a cheaper, decently quality product. So we didn't understand our audience that well, trying to market this nice, high quality product to them and charging a nicer premium, but it's still cheaper than all the other competitors out there. And so, we failed in that regard. We couldn't sell as much as the ones that are using cheaper material,
Right.
but they were able to undercut us 100% of the time.
That's so tough too. I still have so many free OU shirts. Like they're handing out free shirts at events, given they're all like extra larges and random sizes, but they're free. And as a college student, I'm like, do I buy a shirt? Do I, spend it on fun activities and things like that? So that's a really tough market.
Yeah, it was, we didn't fully understand our market. So right there, I took the failures from my first business that I just didn't focus on many different aspects of my business. And then the second business failed because we didn't fully understand our audience. And then now it was able to pivot into this pet grooming business where I did tons of research because I didn't want to have the same failures that originally occurred from those other two businesses that just never took off. But a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. During those 100 miles or 1,000 miles or whatever journey everyone has, you're going to stumble and you're going to fall, but you got to get up and then keep going. And that's really, the biggest thing that stuck with me is you're going to learn more from your failures than when you succeed. So keep failing so that now you can learn from those mistakes and do better next time.
Yeah. So I love how you said keep failing, right? What did you tell yourself whenever you had failed twice already? How did you find the courage to keep trying, to keep going? Because I think sometimes failure for people can be really crippling, right? And it makes sense for some people to give up. How did you keep going, and what gave you the confidence that you were going to make it?
I'd say it's personal motivation. It's seeing everything that my family went through. You know, they gave up everything. They gave up all their belongings and they only had the clothes on their back and their backpack and they hopped on a boat to travel all the way to another country. If they could do that, then I can do anything. They came to a country not knowing anything at all, worked at fast food, only had enough to be able to feed themselves that day and work for tomorrow. And then be able to eventually save up to try to go to school and then eventually go to college and do all these different things. If they can do that, then this is nothing for me. You know, these small failures that I have is really nothing. They provided me this opportunity. And so I should utilize this opportunity to become something more because at the end of the day, these failures are just lessons. They're different ways of learning. You know, you can't let this knock you down. And I think you know, you're right. I have a bias for action, and that is my action right there. Getting back up and try to just do something different.
Yeah. So what's next, Boo? Like I know that the dog grooming business is going well. I guess do you still love the work that you're doing with the dog grooming business, cybersecurity? Where are you trying to go next?
My dream is to be able to quit my W-2 job and just work purely on business. When you work for another company, you are essentially helping make them money. You are essentially putting in 100% of the effort, but really only seeing like 30 to 40% of that back. And it's because you are trying to help the shareholders, the private investors, the company itself make money. At the end of the day, I mean, that's what happens. And so that's why I wanted to become a business owner because all the effort that I put in, 100% of it comes back to me. So I put in 100% effort, I will get back 100% effort. If I put in 30, I'll get back 30. Having that motivation to be able to work for myself and work for my own dreams and then seeing the fruition of my work was really rewarding. And so if I could one day get to the point where I could just manage my business, grow my business out, get into investing, get into other business opportunities of passive income, I would love to do that and be able to just quit my W-2 job and do that all the time. Because to me, it isn't working. It's something that I am very passionate about, something that I love. And that's why, you know, all those conversations we have on Facebook, on Messenger, they're fun. I don't mind talking about taxes, about retirement, about 401k. It's fun. It's weird how fun it is. You know, like a lot of people think I'm weird, but I think it's interesting. I can't read Twilight. I can't read Harry Potter, but give me a book about tax deductions and I'm hooked, which is really weird, but that's what I love.
I love that. Kelly will oftentimes be like, "Who are you texting right now?" I'm like, "I'm texting Bo." She's like, "What are you texting him about?" I'm like, "Oh, we're talking about grass today. How do we get more green grass?" And she's like, "You guys are so boring."
But it's so interesting, you know, like when me and Julie realized that we're excited for having new appliances in the house, like, dang, like we've really grown up. We're not talking about partying and drinking anymore. We're talking about real adult stuff, but it's interesting. Now we're thinking about how to remodel our house, how to make sure that our grass doesn't die all the time. You know, different things that just comes with the responsibility and growing up. And I wish they taught this in school.
Yeah, absolutely. We shared a lot of great advice on how to protect yourself online, to how to be gritty and how to get back from failures, even some tactical tips on how to evaluate a business, the amount of risk that you're taking on, and how to apply failures to your future endeavors. What other advice would you share to young people in college or newly grads?
The biggest advice I would give them is try not to follow the norm. If it's the norm, then everyone is doing it. Try to think outside the box, something that people aren't doing often, and try to catch on to those trends. You know, trendy things seem to do really, really well, but they don't always last. And so you want to find something that will stick and provide a lasting service. We try to look for something that people are going to need all the time. People are going to get their dog's hair cut, and after that, the hair is going to continue to grow, and they'll need the dog's hair cut again. So it's a service that we could repeat over and over and over again. Try to find something that is valuable and can be utilized over and over and over again. You know, don't do something that they only need once and they'll never try it out again. outside of that is knowing the different areas. Like we actually found that there's more opportunity outside of major metropolitan areas. Like if you don't stick to the big cities like Austin, Chicago, Oklahoma City, any of the major cities, you can actually find a lot of opportunity in those smaller cities like Norman, or here it would be like Georgetown, Leander, like just staying a little bit further out, but still getting the benefits of the major city. We found that the population there was able to sustain a lot of different industries really, really well for small businesses. And so trying to figure out exactly where you want to first base your operation, and then now figuring out what kind of niche market really needs people. You don't have to find something on your own. You don't have to create something new. You can just browse and see what people are already doing, and is there a way that I could make it better? Like if I can take that idea and roll with it and make it, my own, I can be successful in that regard.
Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of times we think to be successful, you have to come with this like brand new, innovative idea. And I think there's this trap with that too, where if you're coming up with something so innovative, so new that's never been done before, I would almost question, why hasn't it been done before, right? Like, what are the things that I'm not seeing? What are the pitfalls that I'm not seeing? So to some extent, it almost makes sense to look at things that is being done, but maybe you're frustrated with, or maybe is it being done as well as it could be, where you could sort of step in and be a catalyst for it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the startup companies that are trying to do something new, eventually they get bought out. And that's why all those major companies like Google, Microsoft, CrowdStrike, any of those companies, they don't have to create new things. They just do really well at what they're doing already, and looking out at what other people are doing, and they actually buy them out and incorporate them into their business and actually make it even better. So taking what the major enterprises are doing on a large scale, and let's just zoom in and then do it on a smaller scale. Can't regular people like us, look at what other people are doing and then just mimic it, and then just do it better, or do it in your own way. Just try to revamp what they're doing and make it your own.
Yeah, absolutely. And even for me, as I think about what can I start doing, what can I try to do, I was really hesitant to like write a blog or even start a podcast, because there's already so many great blogs out there. There's already so many great podcasts out there. But I would read things from different authors that I follow who would say, try to copy the best people, try to produce it. And it's really hard to copy the best people, because you're inherently and naturally going to put your own style and flair on it. But if you try to copy the masters, you're going to gain a lot of skills along the way.
Yeah. And those people, if they knew you were doing that, they would be absolutely flattered. They would be thrilled to know that people are trying to copy them because they're doing it so well. And so it doesn't matter how you do it, just try it. We live in a land of opportunity. And so go out there and don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah. Yeah. That's phenomenal. So I could in theory just end the podcast right here. I think you've given a lot of great insights and advice and just shared a lot of great knowledge, Vu. But I'd be remiss if we didn't talk credit cards, because I know that we both have a lot of love for credit cards. Probably, I don't know, over half of our text messages are probably about credit cards, points, optimizing, travel
probably
hacks.
Even more than that.
Yeah. So we have to talk a little bit about this. What got you into your credit cards? What credit cards do you recommend for people? Where should people start?
If you don't use credit cards at all, then you should start with the basics. There are many different credit cards out there. There are easy ones where they give you cash back on every single purchase. That is the most basic that you can do. You don't have to think about it. You can get like the Chase Freedom card that gives 1.5% back on every purchase, and that's great. So is it the Chase Freedom?
It's unlimited.
Chase Unlimited. Yeah. So that's one of the easiest things that you can do. Now it applies to every single purchase. And then there's many different things that you can do from there. And just make sure that you never sign up for those credit cards that give you a one-time deal. Like if you go out to Kohl's and they say, oh, sign up for this credit card and we'll give you a 20% discount on your purchase. Even if they give you your whole purchase for free, it's still not that great unless you're spending like thousands and thousands of dollars. But let's try to be realistic with our purchases. Even if they gave you $700 worth of value, it's really not that worth it versus the other credit cards out there that give you so much more benefit. I actually have a label maker and label all of my different credit cards so I know, oh, this credit card I should use to get 5% back on gas. This one gets 5% back on groceries. This one's 3% on dining. So now I don't even have to think about it. Like I can just look at the credit card, pull it out, and then swipe, and then done. The biggest credit card that I absolutely love, and we've talked about this many times, I'm glad that I was able to convince you into it, was the Southwest Companion Pass. And this card is amazing because once you achieve the Companion Pass, you essentially can bring a companion on with you almost for free. You have to just pay taxes and fees, which ends up being like about $11 per flight, which that's nothing. My wife and I have traveled over the last year now, and we still have another year in 2023 to use our Companion Pass. And after I did the math, we've already racked up about 3,500 worth of value from the Companion Pass alone just this year. So next year, if we continue to travel, just doing the math and doubling that, I would have gotten $7,000 in value from this credit card alone.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you had encouraged us to look into that and that we ended up pulling the trigger, because I think when we did the math, we had saved around $4,000 of travel. And so it's been really beneficial for us as well. And I think credit cards are just such a great way to hack your way to free travel, free hotel stays, as long as you're using it responsibly. Like you need to make sure you're paying it off and you're not having to pay these massive interest rates. But I think it's such a great way for especially young adults who are maybe trying to save for a house, save for a car, save for an engagement ring, whatever it might be. Credit cards are one of the few ways that you can continue to travel while accomplishing some of those other financial goals.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing that people have to realize is that they can't fall for the traps that credit cards provide. They can't just go spending away, credit and forget it. You actually have to utilize the credit card mindfully. And so don't accidentally get into just having a balance rolling every single month and thinking, oh, it's just a little bit now, I'm just going to spend it and then pay it off later. And that's what the credit card companies are hedging on. And that's why they will offer these ridiculous benefits, because every 10 people that they offer and have that credit card, one person is going to fall into that trap, and that one person will rack them up enough money to be able to pay for those other 9. So that's why they're constantly offering these benefits of these credit cards, because they're hoping that people will just fall into that trap and have to pay the ridiculous interest rates that they have.
Yeah, I think that's why oftentimes they have those big dollar amounts that you have to spend. It's like spend $12,000 before you get this sign-up bonus, because they're really banking on you spending that, getting the bonus, and then not being able to pay off your credit card.
Yeah, they have those huge spending requirements, and people think, oh, okay, I do the spending requirement, and then now I get $800 cash back. Amazing. But that's only if you pay off that original balance. If you don't pay off that original balance, now you have the APR of like 23 to like 28%, which is insane.
Yeah. So a good couple of rules that I like to follow is, 1, you shouldn't spend more on your credit card than you have in your checking account. And then 2, you should always pay it off in full. And I think those 2 rules alone makes that credit card usage really safe. I think if you end up racking up credit card debt, it really impacts the rest of your wealth development. And if you have credit card debt, my recommendation would be to pause your retirement contributions, any investing that you're doing, and really pay that down, because it's going to be hard to find anything else that has that high of a return.
Yeah, credit card interest rates are probably one of the highest out there. And so you should really pay that down before everything else. If you look at student loans, mortgages, all those different things usually have a much lower interest rate than credit cards. So definitely trying to pay that down first.
Yeah. Well, Vu and I could probably talk about credit cards for another 30 minutes, but we won't bore you with the details. But if you ever have any credit card questions, I'm sure either one of us would love to talk to you about it, and also share a referral link if you're interested.
Yeah, for hours. I love talking about that stuff.
All right, Vu. Well, any parting words, anything else that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I want everyone to just really don't be scared to fail. Like I keep saying that over and over again throughout this podcast, but I really, really mean it. A lot of people, they're so scared of the unknown out there, so scared of not knowing if they're going to do well. You don't know what you don't know. But this is a great opportunity to go out there and learn yourself and discover what you're truly capable of.
Boo, I think you nailed it on the head. And thank you for the encouragement and sharing the advice about not being afraid to fail, but also having lived that out. And so I think you're such a great example for the audience. And I'm so excited to see all the different things that you're going to accomplish and continue to see how you build your businesses and improve the business of others. You've made a big impact on my life and Kelly's life. And so such an honor to have you as a guest on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. This was really fun.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Well, that wraps up our second episode. A big thank you again to Vo for opening up and candidly sharing his experiences with us. And thank you for listening. I hope you're enjoying this podcast as much as I like creating it.